Don't change the rules in the middle of the game. Tell me what the rules are, and then we'll follow the rules.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the Odd Coaches Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Keith Adams, and with us today on this third Throwdown Thursday edition of the OCP, Captain for Life, Will Cotton. Will, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. A little cold, but I'm inside, so it's nice and warm.
Our favorite administrator, Robert Abney, with a friend. You can hold him up if you want, or her.
Yeah, I'm having to manage my coworker here. living the dream as always, man. Here we go.
Love it. And longtime friend and advocate for me, George Aquid. George, what's going on, sir?
Nothing much, man. Living the dream, making these rounds.
All right. So on today's show, we're going to talk about college football. We're still not ready to make that break. There's a lot going on. So let's go ahead and get started. There's some selective outrage going on in college football. The NCAA is investigating Florida's recruitment of former signee Jaden Rashada, according to multiple reports. Fans of the show can remember that we talked about this in December of 2022. He was signed to a lucrative NIL deal that fell apart. He originally committed to Miami, but he's the former number 44 player overall. He flipped his commitment to the Gators. The NCAA is publicly cracking down on NIL related recruiting violations. They just handed down a pretty stiff penalty to Florida State. So to the panel, starting with you, Will, how can you punish when none of this has been regulated? And is this the new normal? Will, what do you think? Because I think you might have been on the air when we were talking about this guy getting this perceived deal.
Yeah, I mean, they don't know what they're doing. They're kind of just like, they should have had this information. They should have had all these protocols put in before all these things happen. So now they're kind of like they're kind of like trying to catch up, you know. They're doing their best. I mean, obviously, I think, they're going to go through the courts. I think as they hand down these penalties, they're going to go to the courts. Some are going to win, some are going to lose. But at least start building some sort of structure that we're going to have NIL. Nobody knows what's illegal, what's not illegal, and people are going to try until it's illegal. It's still the Wild West. So unfortunately, we're going to see these, these penalties that may not be fair because they don't really know what they're doing yet. And as they continue and craft it and build it, then it will make sense. But I mean, people are just like, okay. They're still kind of like NIL, so they don't know enough to really give a good decision. But they're trying, and I think they're being too selective with their penalties. But that's just me.
All right, George, you're a longtime athletic administrator. What are your thoughts on this selective outrage and selective punishment that you're seeing from the NCAA?
My first question to this whole thing is, what is an NIL violation? Because they don't have a clue. And it is literally, and I'm going to tell you right now, I'm looking at the transfer portal and how things are going, and especially with the recruitment of Houston's quarterback last year. Robert, you'll love this one because Houston's quarterback was the hottest name in the transfer portal. He ended up committing to the NFL, but it was a situation where it was completely out of control. So they have to come up with rules associated with NIL, and I'm still on the fence about whether I want the NCAA or not even involved in policing all this, because they're going to try to find a way to get their cut of it. So I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but they need to get some measures in place to get this under control, because this is out of it's like the Wild West right now.
Okay, Robert, our favorite administrator, we need you, sir. You were probably on the air when we talked about this kid getting these ridiculous offers. What is your reaction to some potential penalties for the schools in Florida?
One of the things that always created the most heartburn with me when I was, when I was in schools was, don't change the rules in the middle of the game. Tell me what the rules are, and then we'll follow the rules. And George and Will have already they've already touched on this. What are the rules? What are the rules? Nobody seems to know. And I mean, I guess you have to try to regulate this because it is the Wild West right now. But what are you regulating? And by what standard? And that's really the challenge right now in the NCAA. I mean, the NCAA, we've talked about this a bunch. They have painted themselves into this corner. They have no one to blame but themselves for this mess. And I don't know how they're going to fix it. I'm not convinced they can. We'll see what develops.
And with that, sir, we're going to talk about transfers. And these are words you don't want to hear. The Department of Justice, 3 more states, and the District of Columbia have joined a lawsuit against the NCAA's transfer eligibility rule. The federal agency signed on to the action, saying in its announcement last week that the NCAA rule on transfers is, quote, an illegal restraint on college athletes' ability to sell their image and likeness and control their education. The DOJ said attorney generals from the states of Minnesota, Mississippi, Virginia, and the District of Columbia have also signed on to this suit. Fellas, George, I'm going to start with you. Where does the NCAA go from here? Because you've got Department of Justice in your business now. And would it be more acceptable if they placed measurable academic progress into whatever their rules are? George, the floor is yours, man.
We've really got into the point where we're separating the business aspect of college athletics and the traditional student athlete thing here. I see it really as the marching of the death of the NCAA. I think in all, we all knew it was coming because they were, for so long, they were able to get away with what they got away with just using these schools and these athletes over and over to make a monetary machine. I think to now that it's now as more of this power gets, or especially financial power, gets put back in the hands of the athletes and the schools, it becomes a dent or even tears away at what the NCAA has established. So it's going to be real interesting to see how this plays out and what happens. I think with the conference realignment and then with the NIL stuff, you're going to start seeing the NCAA diminish in their power and what happens. And see, I don't know what's going to be birthed out of this as a regulation body, but we'll see what happens.
Robert, what are your thoughts, sir?
Well,
Department of Justice.
yeah, you get the DOJ in your business. That's never good.
No.
That's you really don't want that. I mean, they're at a point where it's pretty much. First of all, there's no thought about academics here. We're not talking about. We should be talking about student athletes, but we're not talking about the student piece of this at all, because there's no, and we've talked about this before. There's no expectation that when kids go from one school to another that credits transfer. I don't even know what the academic requirements are anymore. I mean, are we even pretending? And it would appear that the answer is no. We are not even pretending at this point. We're just, kids are going where they can get paid, and good on them, because go get it while you can, young fella and young lady. But who at this point, the NCAA, it wouldn't shock me if they just said, y'all do whatever you want. Just do whatever you want.
Oh man! All right, so
happening anyway. Just do whatever you want. I don't know.
So fans throughout 2024, I will be at a number of academic and athletic contests and conferences as both a presenter and a participant. And these are the questions that will be in the forefront of my mind and the forefront of our conversations. And the OCP will continue to follow this information and these happenings very closely. But when we come back, we're going to talk about coaching moves and the impact it has on all of the things. We're going back on the field. We'll be right back on the Odd Coaches Podcast.
The CKA SAVE Project is an industry leader in advocating for student-athlete, academic, and athletic needs. Through academic and athletic enrichment, the CKA SAVE Project is on the forefront of the issues facing 21st century student-athletes. As student-athletes continue to struggle to find a better balance between academic and athletic success, the CKA SAVE Project offers academic and athletic services to support student-athlete academic success, including academic skills assessment, academic and athletic consulting, academic monitoring, academic and athletic workshops. For more information or to schedule a free consultation, contact Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Odd Coaches Podcast in segment 2. All of these things lead to coaching impacts on the field, and we would like to remind our audience that coaching is hard. So let's talk about Alabama. Alabama freshman quarterback Julian Sayin, the top-ranked quarterback in the class of 2024, intends to enter the transfer portal, and he's expected to have a lot of interest. He is the highest-ranked offensive player in the 2024 ESPN 300, as he is the third overall and one of the marquee players entering Alabama's recruitment. But with Nick Saban's retirement and subsequent hiring of a new coach, Kalen DeBoer, Alabama has lost a top wide receiver recruit in Isaiah Bond, freshman All-American Caleb Downs, and 7 other players since Saban's retirement. And after seeing 9 players exit the program through the transfer portal, Kalen DeBoer added his first transfer of his own in former Washington quarterback Austin Mack. So, I'm starting with you. What are your initial thoughts on the hire of Kalen DeBoer and the aftermath? Is Alabama vulnerable?
Yes. The hiring of Kalen DeBoer actually shocked me. I didn't think he wasn't on my radar as somebody that would be a possible. But Alabama is going to be the case study right now. And whether they're going to be okay or not, wins and losses, we'll see. If Kalen can continue to get people into the NFL like's been going on with that Nick Saban had there. But this is going to be a case study. And when I say that, I'm saying that in the fact that we're going to see what happens when you with them, because the threat of NLI money in the transfer portal. Like right now, I'm telling kids come and talking to me about what they should do. I just had that, and this is case study right here. My running back guy who used to be one of my running backs was a top running back at Kent State, and he put his name in the transfer portal, and that was the previous year. He was the best running back in the state at the time. And he was looking, he was going to go from Kent State to a big-time program because he'd been over 1,000 yards his first 2 years at Kent State. The only love he got was like South Florida. And at that point in time, we told him, yo, you need to go ahead and take that. But he held out. He ended up at Ball State. Things worked out for him. But like right now, I'm telling kids, if a college is showing you love as a high schooler, you need to stay with them and go ahead and ride that one out. Because it used to be if you could wait and get all these different offers, but the transfer portal, kids are going everywhere when they feel like it. So coaches now, you have to be, and this is where Dion has set himself above everybody else, and Norvell, you have to be just as damn good a recruiter in the transfer portal as you are with high school players in order to keep your program viable right now. And that is the new world of college football and college. It's going to be college basketball too, and baseball here in a minute. And the thing is, how much NLL money can you provide, and what kind of deals can you provide these kids? So it's going to be the landscape has changed. That's all I'm gonna put it. It's changed.
So Robert, again, you're in the heart of SEC, Big 12, all of that. What are your thoughts again on the hire, and is Alabama vulnerable in your eyes?
Oh, they're absolutely vulnerable. I mean, I've always said you don't want to be the guy who follows the guy.
Yeah, right.
And there's no one who's more of a guy than Nick Saban. And you're going to follow that. There's no way that ends well. It's just not going to end well. It's not. I mean, let's just call it what it is right now. That is not going to end well. I suspect, it seems like right now the next flavor of the month is going to be Ohio State. So it wouldn't shock me if this kid winds up there. And the other piece of it is the coaching carousel that touches off, because what happens? DeBoer comes from Washington to Alabama, and that surprised me too, because I had never given him a second thought until I saw him, coaching Washington. So he leaves Washington. What does Washington do? They hire somebody from Arizona. They hire the guy from Arizona. Okay. Well, now Arizona is going to hire somebody, and you have coaches and athletes just all over the place. And it's not this whole thing that we're observing is not sustainable. It's not. And it's not going to end well. There's no way it ends well. It's just a question of how it ends badly. That's all.
Okay. Now, Will, you're my business guy. I got to get your thoughts on Washington AD and his comments. So Washington offered Kalen DeBoer a, quote, Big Ten package, which would have made him among college football's top 10 highest paid coaches. And here's what the athletic director, Troy Dannen, actually said, Will. We put numbers in front of him that were, quite frankly, unprecedented for this university. We put a Big Ten package in front of Kalen, not a Pac-12 package. And that offer went from $8.7 million at Thanksgiving to $9.4 million before he took the Alabama job. Will, Robert said it. It's not sustainable. But what are your thoughts on this?
It's not sustainable. I mean, Alabama is going to hold on to it. I don't even know why they made that decision. I mean, for some pros, DeBoer, he is 49, so he's coming his prime years of coaching, I would say. This is where you're old enough to know a lot, and you're still young enough that you can still do it. So I think he's at a good position. I think Alabama still has enough good amount of talent. He can get about 2 years in him. I don't know if they're going to go to the playoffs. I don't think they're going to have those 13-0, 12-1 kind of seasons, and that's going to shock a lot of people in Alabama. But I think to turn down $9 million, there must be something. Alabama must have came and said you have $10 million, but it's not sustainable. It's difficult. It's going to explode because it's too big. It's like the housing market. It can't get too big, and eventually it's going to collapse on itself. So I guess we'll see what happens. But to turn down $9 million, there must be something else going on. Because I would have been back in Washington. Shoot, somebody, with no pressure. And so I don't know what. Maybe it's a personal thing. Maybe it's a mantra. I grew up. I always wanted to be an Alabama head coach, and that's what it could be. But yeah, it's just not scaling, and it kind of shocked me too. But I mean, I don't really understand why LSU brought in Brian Kelly. I don't know why he did that. That kind of shocked me too. But I don't know what they're doing. We'll see next couple years. I think we'll know now. I don't think we'll know this year. I think next couple 2-3 years we'll see more details will come out, and why he, chose not to go with Washington and say, let me go to Alabama. So I don't think we have enough information now, but it's going to come out because nobody turns off $9 million and just like, whatever. So we'll see what happens. But
All right. So to close this segment, I want to ask this to Robert and George as coaches and administrators. Ohio State hired Bill O'Brien as its new offense coordinator. The move marks a major shift for Coach Ryan Day. Coaching chemistry is just as important as player chemistry, and Bill O'Brien has been in charge. Robert, is this even a good move for Ohio State as all of these other dominoes are starting to fall? What do you think about that?
I've never paid a whole ton of attention to Ohio State, so I don't have a lot of thoughts on them typically. I will say that, I mean, they are responding to the fact that Michigan has beaten them 3 years in a row. That's what they're doing. So any move that they make is a response to what are you going to do to beat Michigan? And, I think that when you hire somebody like that, it almost reeks of desperation, because I don't. Bill O'Brien has kind of been all over the place. I see him as an NFL guy, and I don't know how that's going to work, especially and I don't know anything about Ryan Day, but I do know that those guys who are coaches who get set in their ways, calling plays, whatever, it's not so easy to just give that up. And I wonder what kind of strife and turmoil that is going to cause on that staff, because you brought in a big shot NFL guy to call your plays.
George, you've got the last word on this. Again, Bill O'Brien has been in charge, and now you're bringing him to Ohio State, and you've had success. The only thing you haven't done is beat Michigan, and now we've got a 12-team playoff. Last thoughts, George. What do you think, man?
Let's just say it was not Ryan Day's decision.
Ooh.
Okay. All right. And you haven't made the playoff. You haven't beat Michigan. What, 4 years now? I think this is that Ohio State lost. Bill O'Brien has been eye to eye with you as he led the resurgence of Penn State through that whole mess. Bill O'Brien has been head coach in the NFL. When you're Nick Saban, who has taught a lot of guys and has a coaching tree, people like Bill O'Brien can come in and be the offensive coordinator. I can go down the list: Sarkisian, O'Brien, our boy Locks. There have been a number of them that have have been head coaches and then went back and were OCs or DCs under somebody like Saban, because Saban has that repertoire to him. This Day does not have that. Does not have that cachet.
Didn't have the cachet.
Yeah, does not have the cachet. This is not going to be a good marriage. This is one of those marriages for a reason, and they don't usually end real well. So we're going to see. So Day was brought in. Now, was Day brought in? O'Brien was brought in. Was O'Brien brought in with a plan in place of, if Day messes up now, we got our new coach right sitting and waiting, or what? There's a story behind it, but all I can say is that it was not Day's thought process or his decision to hire Bill O'Brien as the OC.
All right. So with that, in segment 3, there's a couple of final stories this week that have caught my eye. And let's just say we're going to give Will an extended opportunity to share his thoughts on eligibility. We'll be right back on the Odd Coaches Podcast.
The reviews are in for Dr. Keith Adams' book, Finding the Balance, My Personal Journey to Academic and Athletic Success. College professor and student-athlete academic expert Dr. Lisa Rubin said, "There is nothing out there like this book, so I do hope people will pay attention and give it a read." Former George Mason standout Fallon Campbell said, "Consider this book an opportunity to work directly with Dr. Adams just like I did. I assure you that there will be something you can take away that will be useful to you throughout your personal journey." Ryan Waite, a recent college graduate who is a software engineer, said, "I like how the book is based on research, which makes it good for general students as well as student athletes." The book serves as both a memoir to Dr. Adams' 30-year academic and athletic career, as well as an instructional guide to assist student athletes, parents, coaches, teachers, and administrators navigate through the challenges of finding a better balance between academic and athletic success. The book includes over 15 personal stories and anecdotes from Dr. Adams, along with numerous former players and colleagues from a variety of sports and endeavors. You can order your copy at www.ckasaveproject.org. From the main page, simply click CKA Save Project Services and order the Find the Balance book. For more information, contact Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Odd Coaches Podcast in segment 3. A few stories caught my eye this week, starting with Cam McCormick. Miami tight end Cam McCormick said last week that he would return to play for the Hurricanes in 2024, his, wait for it, 9th season of college football. Fans, here's his journey, his career timeline. 2016, he was a redshirt. 2017, he was a redshirt freshman. 2018, he had a season-ending injury. 2019, he missed the entire season due to injury. 2020 was the COVID extra year of eligibility. 2021, he had a season-ending injury. 2022, he played 13 games. 2023, he's granted another year of eligibility and transferred to Miami. And 2024, he's granted another year of eligibility. Let me tell you a little bit about his counterparts. Several of his counterparts from the 2016 recruiting cycle includes Green Bay linebacker Rashad Gary, Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts, and San Francisco 49ers defensive end Nick Bosa. He has lasted a lot of coaches. But academically speaking, I can't overlook his off-field resume. He's currently enrolled in Miami's post-baccalaureate program. While at Oregon, he earned a bachelor's degree in journalism and communication, a master's degree in advertising and brand responsibility. He's also completed a number of internships, including those with Fidelity, the University of Oregon Police Department, and Courts for Kids, and the last of which saw him spend time overseas in Africa as a cultural ambassador. So, Will, is this too much? Or, hey, get all the education you can. The floor is yours, my friend.
It's just too much. The kid is going to be 26 in April. 26. But my question is, where are the adults? Granted, he is an adult himself. He's 26. But where are the coaches who are like, hey, this kid's 26. Why is he here? What about your parents who are like, hey, let's move on with our lives. Let's do things like that. What about advisors? Granted, you're seeing that he has a great university career. He does the GPA. He does the ambassador for Africa for cultural. My thing would be like, why are you playing? What are you doing? It's kind of like embarrassing too. You have that kid who's, he's playing and he's how old is he? Oh, he's 24. What is your coach? You always ask, what is your end goal? You're not going to make to the NFL. Let's just say that you're not going to be. First of all, you're the age of 40 in the NFL going as a rookie. You're not going to be in the NFL. What is your purpose? You can keep him onto the team. coach, learn the coach, strength conditioning, something. But at the end of the day, let's even talk about safety. This man is 26 years old, and you're going to have him playing with 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds. I mean, the physicality is different. You know what I'm saying? How strong I am when in my 20s versus my 18s. And I think we're losing our sight on what we're actually doing in this now. But with all that said, all this COVID stuff is going to be gone soon. 4 or 5 years, all that stuff of 6, 7, seasons are going to be gone. And I think they're trying to just get all the kids who got through that 2020 year. They're trying to get all those kids out of college. Some are going to go to extra years, some are not. But 4 or 5 years, when they're all gone, all that stuff is going to be done. For all 26 years old, they have to be a cap. I'm sorry, they have to put a cap. You can't just. This is ridiculous. This is laughable. And who allows this? You're a coach. You're a coach. You're in Miami, and somebody comes to you and like, hey, there's a coach. This kid is 26 years old. He's injury plagued. He's been playing since 2016. I wouldn't be like, yeah. No, why would you bring him in? There's no benefits. So it's just getting crazy. Hopefully in a couple of years, when all these COVID years get out of here, that it can get back to normal. But I'm about to go back to school. What you mean? I got eligibility.
Okay.
And I get like a little check. Why not? This is crazy.
All right. George, you're a not only a counselor, but you're an athletic director. And believe it or not, when this kid went to college the first time, we were both athletic directors together. That was funny. What do you think? Actually, it's true. What do you think about this case, man? What are your thoughts, sir?
I think that he's on his second NFL contract. This is ridiculous. I mean, that we have grown men playing against kids, and that's what I think of it. To me, it shows again the absolutely absurdity that is the NCAA. I grant, yes, you gave some passes with the COVID situation because kids didn't get to play. But I mean, God bless him, because he's a hustler. He's taking full advantage of what is out there to him. So let them do it. But they've got to revamp this. They have to. Because when I read this, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. So that's where I am. It's Jermaine, we got grown men playing with kids right now. That's where it is. He's going to line up next year. He's going to line up against and I'm sorry, I would say 18-year-old, but there's a 19-year-old because everybody down south holds their kids back a year. So there's a 19-year-old going to be lined up against him face to face. And that's just unfair. It's ridiculous.
Robert, you're my favorite administrator, and believe it or not, when he was enrolled as a freshman, you were helping me with my dissertation, and that's actually true. What do you think about this situation, sir?
Well, let's turn this around. And George already touched on this. This young man has taken full advantage of every academic opportunity that he has been given. He's got a master's degree. He's in a post-baccalaureate program. He has taken full advantage of going to school for free. He has taken full advantage of that. And we talk all the time about guys, they should be out there. They should, get what you can, get paid, all that, take the bag of money. And that's what he's doing. That is what he's doing. And we can debate all of is this right? Is this fair? Is this stupid? Because all of those are worth discussing. But I mean, the guy's taking it. He has figured out the system, and he's taken advantage of it. And he's probably getting paid while he's doing it because NIL. Mm-hmm. And you know what? Good on him. Mm-hmm. Good on him.
As we have said on this show,
the system, let's not ignore the fact that the system is broken. Clearly, the system is broken. But you know what? you can't take it out on this young man because he has figured out these are the rules as currently established, and I'm going to take full advantage of that.
He's like tax code. Nobody knows how they run. They just get through.
Hey, I will say this. This is like karma coming back, because we spent all those years with the NCAA doing everybody dirty, and now they have no control over what's going on. So,
Yeah.
Man, as we say on this show, get the bag, man. I've got no problem with him exhausting, and believe me, he has exhausted his eligibility. That master's degree, Robert, I've never even heard of that major. Bless his heart. Okay.
Right.
Bless his heart. So with that, one final story has caught my attention. And this is just for me to kind of rant off. And I hope I pronounce his name right. And George, I might need your help. But San Jose State is targeting former Navy head coach Ken Niumatalolo. Is that how you pronounce it, George?
I don't know how to say it, but you're close enough. Go ahead.
Go enough. And what San Jose State wanted was an experienced coach because, Robert, is that the Mountain West?
Yes.
All right. So they've got an experienced coach, and and I believe it's Niumatalolo. He was just at USC last year with Chip Kelly as like their leadership coach. And he spent time learning Chip Kelly's system because when he was at Navy, he ran triple option, which you cannot run and try to recruit and have some sustainability. So it just made me think about my own career. Because the last time I coached was 2013, 3 years before this guy that we talked about was a freshman. And I've done a lot of studying. And the fact that Coach Ken stepped off the ride and went and learned Chip Kelly's system and did a lot with NIL and the transfer portal. It just, I'm rooting. I hope he gets the job this week officially, and I'll be watching them because I just kind of like when guys step off, study, and jump back into it. Not saying that I'm going to do that, William, but that story kind of caught my eye. So with that being said, thank you on behalf of my Cavalcade of Stars. I want to thank you for listening and or watching the iCoaches podcast, and we will see you on the sidelines. Until next time, take care.
The iCoaches podcast is sponsored by the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project is an industry leader in providing student-athlete academic and athletic support. From assessing student-athletes' academic and athletic skills, to measuring and monitoring student-athlete academic progress, to improving student-athlete time management and organizational skills, the CKA Save Project provides wraparound services for student-athletes from middle school through college. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by emailing cka@ckasaveproject.org.
We hope you enjoyed today's show. The iCoaches podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday through Friday on most weeks. Make sure you subscribe to the iCoaches podcast on Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube. Follow the iCoaches podcast on Twitter and Instagram at iCoaches. Follow Dr. Adams on Twitter and Instagram at CKA Save Project. In addition, follow Coach Mike Francis on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Franchise, spelled Coach Franchize. For more information about the CKA Save Project, please visit them on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org. See you next time on the iCoaches podcast.